How are we doing, folks? Well, I'm just waiting for my high-level exhaust and silencer and the aluminium mudguards, 21 inch for the front and the 18 inch by 5 wide for the back. So I'm hoping they're going to come in the next couple of days, but in the meantime I've just cleaned a few bits up off the B25 that I'm not going to be using. Obviously I bought the, I had the Hornet or the Spitfire tank, and I would have liked to have used that if it had fitted. It's a shame really, but it's just too long. So I'm going to get shot of that. I've just cleaned all that up. The original tank, which is really in quite good nick, but I'm never going to use it, so I've just cleaned that up to get rid of, and obviously the chain guard, which I'm never going to use. So they're ready to get rid of by whatever method. Same with the forks, which we refurbed because we had the parts for them. But I'm still left with this thing, the original front wheel, and it's a shame for me just to throw this in the back of the shed with all the other junk, because these are quite sought after, because they really do enhance the braking efficiency from the single lever fronts that the earlier B25s came with. So that'll just, the bearings are a bit rough, so I could just get rid of it as it is, but if I just clean it up, have a look at the bearings, clean the shoes up, clean the rim. I mean, the tyre looks brand new, still got the dimples on it, but I would imagine if I looked at the date on it, it's probably nearly as old as me. But no, it can't be that old, can it? Yeah, you know what I mean. So let's open this up and tidy it up, clean it all, check the bearings, replace if needed, or repack them, and get ready to flirt it. So I'm just looking at this at the front here. So this, very nice as well. It's stainless steel. It's obviously off a sailing dinghy, this turnbuckle, left and right handed thread. So that'll be going back on because it fits lovely, and obviously I'll adjust and check the length. But yeah, and obviously the guy who obviously had it before had, great expectations for this bike, because obviously even the split pins he's put in, he's not bent them over, but they are stainless. But anyway, let's get it opened up and let's see what we can do. So first of all, I'll take the rusty hubcap off it. So these just lever off, so you can get a lever between the top of the spoke without marking anything, and the edge of the hubcap, and it should tease off, something like that. Bit rusty, but hey-ho. And then we've got this dust shield. I know these are difficult to get out. We might be able just to grip it with some water pump pliers. A lot of people just get a sharp chisel or screwdriver, but it damages the outer edge, and it's really a shame to do that. Here's the big boys. So I think if I can just grip that and can I lever that up from there? Too easy that one. And then we're left with a circlip. God, they are small. At least they've got holes in the circlip this time. They are small holes. Maybe. Something's happened. We'll tease that out from there. Maybe. Or maybe not. Should have glasses on really, shouldn't I? Goggles, because you're a bad lad. Okay, circlip out. So now everything's from the other side, isn't it? So we've got the little locking ring holding the brake drum on. Our favourite little tool. Just have to move these pegs. Obviously you could do this with a punch and it probably wouldn't be too bad on this, because that one, they are actually steel, but it's the inner ones, if you remember, same as when we did the back, the inner ones they're made out of that zinc alloy, which is very, very soft and so easily damaged. So while you've made the tool or got the tool, may as well use it. Just got to change the hole positions with the pegs, like I said. So there's only two on this one. So this should be the right spacing, because I have done a couple of these before. Okay. We have to grip it in the vise. I don't need to push soft jaws in here. These are stainless steel jaws with no, I just made these out of a bit of flat stainless steel bar, and there's no serrations on them, so if you're gripping mild steel you're not going to mark anything. So I've gripped the spindle, so we drift that see how we go. And this is a conventional thread. Break me brass. Tight, tight, but go in, go in. Just tie that. Can I jam it on there? Yes. So I'm just wedging it on that return spring of the brake. Yes. It's tight, that. Better. Someone's been in there before anyway with a centre punch or something, he just wants cleaning up. But I'll have to chase the threads, just give the threads a clean. Pretty tight. So this should come off, shouldn't it? Voila. Bit rusty. Fair bit of meat on there though. Rusty rusty drum. Yeah, the bearings feel a bit gritty. So this will be a lefty on here. And now I've got to swap back to the 4 holes on this thing. Could try it with 2, but I'm not going to risk it. It's soft material, and if it's tight I'm only going to end up damaging it. So it'll only take a minute to put the 4 in. Last one. So there we are. I think we used this last time, didn't we, when we did the rear wheel bearings on the rear wheel. Not going to get it with this though, because the centre isn't big enough. So let me switch you off. I'll just open this up because there's enough meat on there for that, isn't there? Yeah, let me open this up because it's a shame not to use this tool. So, be back directly. Okay, and we're back. I had a 20mm. That's 3/4. I don't know what pitch it is, but it's a 3/4 thread. Obviously 19 3/4 is 3/4. Had a 20mm taper shank drill, so just that's going to do the job. He said, yeah, I'm worrying. So this was the lefty, wasn't it? Lefty, so we're going clockwise. Yes. And luckily it's still got my inch spacing. It's not broke through, so I can still do the outer one as well, the brake drum retainer. Yeah, a few battle scars on that, but and it is stamped LH. So let's just shift a few things. So now that bearing is pulled against the shoulder, obviously, with that collar, and there's a shoulder on the inside of the bearing on this, so that now should tap out from that side, bring the shaft and the bearing out and leave the other bearing in place, maybe. So copper face, let's see what happens. Too easy. Looks okay in there. Bearing doesn't feel too, this one doesn't feel too bad. Still needs to be opened up and repacked. We'll clean it and check it. So we can actually use, we could use this, couldn't we, for say messing around looking for drifts. So let's just take this off. Well, the same bearings probably as the back. They were in the back wheel maybe. Anyway, so that should pass through that reduced air, and it does. Should be able to drift. Right, we're up. Moving. Oh, dust shields jumped off the bearing. Out. So that leaves us now with a blank rim. So from this side there is no shoulder, just a circlip groove, so the bearing on this side is just floating, and the brake drum side, there's the shoulder that the bearing's going to sit against, and obviously then your zinc retainer is going to clamp that bearing in place. So that one's fixed, the other one's floating, and the shaft, so let's take this off the shaft again. And obviously the shaft is going to sit against the back of that bearing, and the bearing on the non-brake drum side is floating on the outer and obviously floating on the inner, although there is a little step there, so the bearing can only go on so far. Probably difficult to see, but there is a step there, so it would never travel beyond there anyway once it's all been assembled. So the circlip's going to stop it coming that way anyway, and that little extra difference in diameter is going to stop it travelling that way. And this brake drum side, the bearing and the shaft are all going to be constrained with the bearing retainer, and obviously on the brake drum it's going to reduce the float as well. But the spindle is held at both ends in the bottom of the forks by the two studs which pass through which the cap goes against, so the spindle's constrained anyway. So I just want to clean up with the threads for sure. Okay, there we are. The cage has come off this one. The dust shield, sorry, not the cage. That'll click back in. They just have like a rubber, not rubber, Viton lip that's going to run in a little lip in there. But that, look how dry that is. You know, that's... So I'll pull the shields off both bearings, wash them out in paraffin, airline them, check them for wear, check them for any bad bits, you know, any damage to the surfaces. If they're okay, I'll repack them and put the shields back in. So that's the bearings and the shaft we're happy with. Happy with the retainers. Oh no, I did say I'm going to just clean the threads up a little bit on the one that retains the back plate for the brake shoes in place. That all looks good. So that can go out of the way for a second. So we're left with this. I mean, I think these are, somebody's painted it black, but these are generally polished aluminium, so I might just run the rotary wire brush over this. Shoes off, give them a good clean, lubricate the pivots, and we'll come back when everything's cleaned up and we're ready to assemble and adjust, etc. So we'll catch you in a bit. We're all cleaned up, everything looks fine. There was a few issues. This, the spindle itself, this had been damaged. It would only go down so far. So this is 20 by 3/4. The thread obviously didn't have a tap and die set for that, so I managed to chase that on the lathe, the male bit, and I used some grinding paste and just kept working at it. But that now goes all the way down because it was only going down that far, maybe not pushing the brake drum down far enough, but that's okay now. So a few battle scars on it where they've obviously had mole grips or pipe wrenches and everything. So I've spun it all up in the lathe, cleaned it all up, happy with that, good stuff. So the other was the spindles for the cams. I'm not sure how it was originally, but they were either for a special oil can or something to push down and lubricate, or they were a grease nipple, I'm not sure. But they'd obviously been hammered and these heads were hammered over. So what I managed to do is found some grease nipples that this section unscrews and just leaves this bit. And I couldn't identify the thread, but I tried a few different taps that I had in blank material, and a 1BA works out quite nicely. So I managed to fit grease nipples in the end. And the other bonus is these are these will be 3/8 UNF. A 3/8 UNF nut passes over the top, so yeah, fairly good. Bearings are stripped, bearings look good, obviously better quality, the old ones, SKF, than spending money. I know they're only £4 to £5 each, but you know, you're buying some Chinese rubbish, whereas the original SKFs, clean the old grease out, give them a good wash, airline them all, make sure there's no play in them, repack them with grease, put the dust shields back in. Better than the ones you can buy probably today without buying Timken or something like that. So the bearings, happy with those. So I think we've got enough bits now to put it back together. So we just build the brake plate up, back plate up first. So yeah, I got whatever the paint was on there, managed to get that off with the little rotary wire brush. And you know, you could go berserk, and not that I'm a big polishing fan, but you know, you could get a buffing wheel on that like a lot of them do, and that'd turn out quite nice. Because this brake setup is probably, but Triumph used it as well, probably after 68 or 69 or something, like Bonnie's 6TAs and all that had them previously. They were a single lead. So these are quite sought after, and after cleaning the rim up and everything, you know, it's a lovely little wheel this. It's well worth, you know, tidying up. So like, let's crack on anyway. So spindles in first. I have polished the shafts, so a tiny little bit of grease on there, not too much. got too much wear on there either, which is quite nice. Normally these get a bit of wear in the aluminium. You're running steel in soft aluminium, and obviously even though there is lubrication points on it, you know, you could look back and say, you know, how many times were they lubricated in its lifetime? I know me as a biker in my teens would never even dream of lubricating something like that. You just ride it like you stole it, and only when it broke down you did maintenance on it, but that was it. So cams are in, so these are fairly straightforward. Cable would go to the inside, so it's going to be that way on. So these were plated, not very good condition but not too bad, so I've cleaned them up to put a bit of paint on them, quick bit of silver spray to stop some rusting. Same with the spring, just a bit of I think it was like chrome wheel spray or something, I don't know. So this is going to hook on the back of that, and that is going to come round and hook on there, he said. We're on. These are not imperial, they're actually they're metric, but they are stainless, the washers, so I've got rid of the rusty washers, and I've put stainless on, makes it look a little bit more flash. I'm not going to wind these up just yet. Same with t'other. So I think we're on the right flat. That goes the other way up. Yeah. Stainless washer. .38 UNF. So cams are lubed and in. Just a bit of wood for to stand on. Shoes and springs. These will only go on one way no matter what you do. Bit of copper slip on the spring pivots because we can. So a pose, which is that. Springs were a bit rusty, so I've gave them a bit of a wire brush, and I actually just give them a very light coating in not ACF 50, it's Big Brother. this stuff corrosion block because it doesn't seem to evaporate, made by the same company as ACF 50. Springs are on, so we want a little bit of copper slip on these faces. On the cam. And on the heel. Cam. Heel. Okay. Now for the finger trapping part. So the radius is the rocking part, which goes on the fixed side, and the flat section goes on the cam. So one end in first, and then let's get one side in if I can, without trapping my fingers. One end in, and cam side in. Come on, baby. And we're in, and they're in the right position. Looking good. So put that to one side, and let's just bring the wheel up. So I'll give the drum a bit of a clean up inside. It's not bad. Just give the rim a bit of a rub, which is really stainless steel spokes and it's in really good condition. However, I did notice that I was looking at the tyre, 2008 the tyre, so the tyre's quite old, but obviously been stored in a dry place out in the sun. It looks perfect, the tyre. But I just noticed the Dunlop K82s, and they've got a direction of rotation, and in this case, I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, but a B25, the brake drum is on the right hand side, so if the bike was rolling forward, the wheels would rotate in a clockwise direction. But I'm just looking at the arrow on this, and it's facing in the opposite direction. I mean, they don't even look like the are unidirectional tyres, they look bi-directional. Tread pattern looks the same, but they wouldn't put the arrow on there for no reason, so the tyre's got to come off and be spun on the rim, but that's another story. But I just had to laugh when I saw that. Right, so bearings. So first we drop we're on the drum side because this is where the bearing gets captivated or retained, and this piece is what the bearing rests on, and there's a little step in there. So this is steel that goes in, and it bottoms out, and it only goes in one way. There's a relief on one side, so the relief faces the bearing, and we're in. And then we've got our bearing. So I'm just going to give that a tap down, and it just so happens that my 1 5/16, or I could use the shaft, couldn't I? 1 5/16 just sits over the bearing quite nicely. Going in quite easy, and she's down. Here's a tone change when it bottomed out. So now we've got our retainer. I'm just going to put a smidge of grease on here. You know, I've tried this, obviously the threads are good, spins in and out lovely, no problem, but a little bit of lubrication is always good. And what am I doing? It's a lefty, so I'm going anti-clockwise to screw it in, and she's away. Don't know if I can just get it started with that. No. Just to get it going. And we've bottomed out, so we just need our tool, which I've just got to swap the screws around. One more. Snip him up. We're done. And we're in. Copper face. So we're going anti-clockwise to tighten. Don't have to go mad, she's tight. So that's the drum side bearing fitted, and that is constrained, so that's like the datum for all the other bits and pieces. So we're now going to put the shaft in. I'll just get a couple of blocks of wood to sit under the rim. Got one there. Another block. Go, spin him over, yeah, shaft. So the shouldered end, the threaded end, into the fixed end or the datum end, the start bit where the drum is. We'll just put a bit of lube on there because we can. May as well do a bit on the other end while we're here. Copper face. And it's in. Other bearing. And again I've got my socket. I'll just get it started first. And we're away. Yep. So this can go down to the register. There is a register on there. And I think with air, because this had been assembled incorrectly last time because the circlip was on the inside of this cup. So now this would have been obviously a dust shield with a felt washer underneath it originally, but obviously as the bearings have got changed, I'm just going to lift that up a bit. As the bearings have got changed for newer ones now, people correctly fit the ones with the seals on, but the original ones didn't have seals. The seals were separate and the bearings were open, so that's why all that stuff was on there. Now we're bottomed. So now we can fit our shield, and this time it's on the inside with the circlip on the outside, which was, this is the correct way. So let's tease it down a tad. And we're in. Circlip. Nearly. Just better put my they're not safety glasses, but if it does spring up, it's going to stop me getting hit in the eye. Maybe. Nearly. Nearly. And we're in. Yes. I mean, not that I would be, if it was, you know, building a bike, would I be putting that back on? No, I'd obviously have a new wheel trim, but just to get it out of the way. So that's that end done. So we're now up to our brake back plate. So drum's nice and clean. So the only thing that might happen now is, I mean, I could actually measure that beforehand. Like we said before about the original bearings didn't have dust seal, you know, they didn't have built-in dust seals. So there was like a metal shields on each side and felt pads and all kinds of things. But these metal shields have obviously got a thickness to them. So sometimes when you bolt these up with these new bearings, if you've not got a dust shield to put back in, which I haven't because there was none on this side, when I pull it down, instead of the inner face of this hitting the bearing before the brake drum touches this outer ridge, you can end up, they'll lock up and you end up having to, you know, make a washer up to fit to take it off. And this might be the case because it wasn't screwed all the way down when we come to fit it, when we stripped it originally. So that might be the case. Although I don't know. I don't know where it's rubbing, but yeah. Oh, it might be alright. Yeah, feels okay. So now we've got our conventionally handed nut locking ring, whatever you want to call it, for the back plate. So when we take the front wheel out, it doesn't all fall apart on the floor. It's never gone. That's gone on lovely, that. I'm happy with that. Better than fighting with it, taking it off. So we want our special tool back to a number 2 position. Which is the innermost. Screwdriver, wherever I've hidden it. And we're in. I'm going to have to pull the other ones off because they're in the way. Okay. And we're in. So now we need to just hold in the vise to grip the shaft. Heavy now. So clockwise to tighten. So if I hold that on there, that should pick up, and it does on there. Oh, that's tight. I can live with that. That is a heavy wheel. No, you don't need them on a trials bike. So I struggled to get the air scoop grill off because the screws were very, very tight. So I ended up using an impact screwdriver to get them off. So I don't know what I've done with the grill. Should be dropped on the floor. Yep. So something quite interesting about the air scoop. I mean, trying from BSA, I didn't think went in for a bit of bullshit or whatever. But this bottom one here doesn't go anywhere. It's a solid casting. It's only the top one that allows the cooling, but maybe just for aesthetics. You know, I don't know. It just doesn't seem like a BSA thing. It's normally functional, and that's why it's there. But the aesthetic bit to actually cast that hollow there, but not send it all the way through, just seems a little strange to me. So, I really struggled, like I say, to get these screws out, and I ended up using an impact driver to get them out, but I have cleaned them all up now. And the original washers that were on there were steel, which were quite rusty, so I've cheated and put some stainless washers under the screws, make it a little bit more aesthetically attractive. They are teeny as well, these screws. A bit of daylight. the easiest to fit. We're close. One. Two. Three. So we're just left with now the adjusting rod that synchronises the shoes. So I will be using this. It's obviously off a bit of boat rigging, like a dinghy, you know, off the halyards or something, off a stays. Left and right handed thread, so you slacken the lock nuts off, you turn the centre and it'll either expand or retract. So I'm just going to place this on. I'm not going to do any adjustments. I'd rather set that up if I was going to fit it on a bike, but I have got all the screws and everything, all the washers, and yeah. Wash underneath because we can, and even the split pins are stainless, which is nice. So I'm not going to bend those over either yet. Just being held off by the spring. Gotcha. Stainless steel split pin. And we're in. So for setting this up, you'd need a couple of 9/16 spanners. You'd have one end fastened and the other end off. You'd apply the brake by using a spanner. I'm just going to tighten this up now because it's in forever. So that would hold it there. So you'd have to put the other spanner on and get the brake applied, and then you'd wind this until that cotter pin drops straight in and you'd be done. So there we have our TLS twin leading shoe brake and wheel. Even though the tyres on the, mind you could always swap the fork leg over and spin it round so that the brake was on the left hand side. Depends what you're going to fit it on. But I might just keep hold of this anyway, even though I'm not going to use it on the bike, because I am looking for a T100, a 120, Triumph 120, or like a 6TR or something. And if it's a like pre-68 or 69, it wouldn't come with a TLS, twin leading shoe, just a single. And because the forks are the same, obviously spindle's the same, they just drop straight in. So we're done. So I've had a couple of presents arrive yesterday. The alley guards came and the high level exhaust So this can now go in the shed. I'll obviously give it a spray of ACF 50 to protect it, because probably could be a while before it comes out again, but it's there for the next project, and happy. So we'll catch you for the mudguards and the high level exhaust. I've actually got a silencer as well, but a little stubby. We'll see if that'll go on, but I've just got to make a few mods first to the oil feed and return pipe to get that high level exhaust through the space. So we'll catch you on the next one.